If you had walked past her that night, you might have thought she wouldn't live to see the morning. Before we begin, take a second to like this story and subscribe to the channel, because sometimes the smallest gestures change lives, just like one small act of kindness changed hers forever. The winter of 1887 was cruel in ways only those who have felt real hunger and real cold can understand. The wind swept across the wooden platforms of the train station like a blade, slicing through coats, through skin, through hope itself. Snow clung to the iron rails and gathered in the corners of the platform roof. The lamps flickered weakly against the darkness, casting long, trembling shadows. She stood near the far end of the station, where fewer eyes wandered. Her name was Clara Whitmore, though no one there knew it. Her boots were worn thin, her gloves mismatched and frayed. The once blue wool of her coat had faded into a tired gray. She was only 19, but hardship had already carved quiet lines into her face. Clara had arrived in town that morning with nothing but a small carpetbag and a folded letter she had read so many times the creases were tearing. The letter had promised work, respectable work as a seamstress for a family newly settled in the territory. It had been signed with careful ink and kind words. But when she reached the address, she found an empty building and a landlord who shrugged. "They left 2 months ago," he'd said. "Headed back east. No apology, no explanation, just gone." The little money she had saved for travel was spent on the ticket and a loaf of bread she now rationed into tiny bites. Pride kept her from begging. Fear kept her from wandering too far. And so she returned to the station, hoping she could keep warm near the stove inside until morning. But as evening deepened, the stationmaster had grown impatient. "No loitering," he barked. "Ticket holders only." She had no return ticket. So she stepped back out into the cold. The wind rose harder, whipping her skirt around her legs. Snowflakes caught in her lashes. Her stomach cramped with hunger, but worse than that was the creeping numbness in her fingers. She tried to rub warmth into her hands, breathing into them, but the air only stole her breath. She told herself she would stay awake. Just until the next train came. Just until she figured out what to do. But the human body has limits. She sank down against a wooden crate near the edge of the platform, pulling her coat tighter. The world blurred at the edges. The sounds of distant cattle cars, of murmuring passengers, of boots against wood, all faded into a low hum. She might have closed her eyes. And that is when he saw her. The train arriving from the south hissed as it pulled into the station, steam curling into the night sky. Among the passengers stepping down was a man who did not look like he belonged in the frostbitten chaos of the frontier. He wore a long dark duster coat lined with fur, polished boots, and a wide-brimmed hat that shadowed a strong, weathered face. His name was Nathaniel, Nate, Callahan. Most folks in 3 territories knew that name. He had made his fortune driving cattle across states when others failed. He owned more land than some counties. They called him the Millionaire Cowboy, a man who could ride through a dust storm and come out richer on the other side. But what few knew was that Nate had once been a barefoot orphan himself. He was not supposed to be in that town long. He had business, a land negotiation, a meeting with a rail investor. He stepped onto the platform with purpose, adjusting his gloves. Then he noticed the stillness. Amid all the movement, one shape did not move. He paused. There, half hidden in shadow, was a girl slumped against a crate, snow dusting her hair like a cruel crown. He walked toward her. Up close, he saw the faint tremor in her lips, the unnatural paleness of her skin. He crouched, brushing snow from her shoulder. "Miss," he said gently. Her eyelids fluttered. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. The man before her looked like something out of a storybook, a silhouette against steam and lamplight. "You can't sleep here," he said softly. Not scolding, concerned. "I'm not," she whispered, though her voice shook. He removed his gloves and took her hands in his. They were ice cold. Without hesitation, he shrugged off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. The warmth of it, the weight of it, startled her. "Can you stand?" he asked. She tried. Her knees buckled. He caught her before she fell. The stationmaster began to protest, but one look at Nate silenced him. Money and reputation had their uses. Nate lifted Clara in his arms as if she weighed nothing. Passengers stared, whispers spreading. The millionaire cowboy carrying a frozen stranger through the station doors. He took her straight to the finest hotel in town and ordered a room with a roaring fire. He sent for a doctor. He demanded hot broth, blankets, and dry clothing. Clara drifted in and out of awareness as warmth slowly returned, painfully, to her limbs. The doctor warned that another hour in that cold might have been fatal. When she finally woke fully, it was morning. Sunlight streamed through lace curtains. The fire crackled gently, and Nate sat in a chair by the window, head resting on his knee. She startled, pulling the blanket closer. "You're safe," he said simply. No grand speech, no expectation. She learned his name from the doctor's odd tone. And he learned hers in a whisper, as though she were afraid it might be taken from her too. Over the next few days, Nate postponed his business. He told himself it was practical, ensuring she recovered fully. But truthfully, something about the quiet strength in her eyes held him. Clara tried to insist she would repay him. She offered to sew, to cook, to clean. He shook his head. "You don't owe me," he said. "No one owes for being saved from freezing." But pride is a stubborn thing. She told him about the letter, about the empty building, about her parents lost to illness 2 winters before. She spoke without self-pity, just honesty. He listened, not the distracted listening of a wealthy man indulging a story, but the attentive silence of someone who understood what it meant to be one misfortune away from nothing. On the 4th day, she stood by the window of the hotel room, fully dressed in a simple gown he had arranged for her. Snow had stopped. The world looked brighter. "I can't stay," she said. "I won't be a burden." He stood slowly. "You're not, but I have no place here." He hesitated, then spoke words that surprised even him. "I have land," he said. "A ranch west of here. It needs someone who knows how to make a house a home. It needs someone with courage. You crossed states alone for work, that's courage." She turned to face him, heart racing. "Are you offering me employment?" she asked carefully. He met her gaze. "I'm offering you a chance," he said. "Not charity, partnership." The journey to his ranch took 2 days by carriage. Clara watched the open plains roll by, fear and hope tangled in her chest. What if she was stepping into another illusion? But when they arrived, she saw not just wealth, but community. Workers who respected Nate, families who relied on the ranch, a sprawling house that, despite its size, felt lonely. In the weeks that followed, Clara did not sit idle. She organized the kitchen, mended torn clothes for ranch hands, planted a winter garden in the greenhouse. She laughed with the cook, listened to the stable boy's stories, and slowly the house warmed in a way no fireplace alone could accomplish. Nate found himself lingering in doorways, watching her hum softly as she worked. Watching how the men straightened when she thanked them for their effort. Watching how she carried herself, not as someone rescued, but as someone rebuilding. Challenges came. A sudden cattle illness threatened thousands of dollars in loss. A rival rancher attempted to undercut Nate's contracts. Rumors spread that Clara was a gold digger, that she had trapped him. The words reached her ears. One night, she stood in the barn, tears streaking her face. "I don't want your name tarnished because of me," she said. Nate stepped closer, jaw tight. "My name survived droughts, thieves, and war," he replied. "It can survive gossip." He took her hands, the same hands that had once been frozen on that platform. "I didn't save you because I pitied you," he said. "I saved you because no one deserves to be left in the cold." And somewhere between that night and now, I realized something. Her breath caught. "I don't want you here as an employee," he continued. "I want you here as my wife." Silence filled the barn, thick and trembling. She searched his face for doubt, for obligation. She found none. "I have nothing to bring," she whispered. He smiled softly. "You brought life back into my home." Their wedding was held in spring, beneath a wide open sky. Ranch hands stood proudly as witnesses. The same town that had once whispered now gathered to celebrate. Clara wore a simple white dress she had sewn herself. As Nate slipped the ring onto her finger, she thought back to the train station, the cold, the loneliness, the moment she nearly disappeared unnoticed. One act of compassion had rewritten her story. Years later, they would build a small fund for travelers stranded in winter, ensuring no one else was turned away from warmth. Clara insisted on it, because, she would say, sometimes the difference between tragedy and triumph is one person who stops walking. So if this story moved you, if it reminded you that kindness still matters, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because somewhere, someone may be standing alone in their own winter, waiting for a reason to believe the world has not forgotten them. And maybe, just maybe, you will be the one who sees them before it's too late.